Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Alhamdulillah, wa salam Allah, wa Rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our series of the book. And this is the book that's written by Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Atlee, which I hope everybody has a copy of now. And this book is so great because it's speaking about the Quran. We spoke about how the Quran are the words of Allah revealed to us to help us in our everyday lives. We talked about how the Quran has guidelines and rules and laws to help us to live a successful life in this world in hopes of obtaining a successful life in the hereafter. We talked about how the Quran addresses all facets of life. We talked about how it addresses economics. And today we're going to go into detail about how it addresses wealth. And let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. And again, for those of you who have not yet purchased the book, you want to make sure that you go to the website, www.adleeonline.com. The book is only $5, okay? And purchase it. This is how the book looks. And we're going to speak about how the Quran addresses wealth in Islam. And there's nothing in Islam that says that because we're Muslim, that we can't be wealthy. In fact, Islam encourages us to reap the benefits of this world and the hereafter. It just warns us. Allah warns us against being distracted by our money and property. That's all. And this is a question that a lot of the new converts will ask me. They'll say, Sister Layla, is it true that we have to be poor, that we can't have nice things because we're Muslim? No, that's Sufism. That is not Islam. Okay, you can reap the best of this world. Just don't allow the money and your possessions to cause you to become remiss in your obligations to Allah. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning. O you who believe, do not let your properties or your children divert you from the remembrance of Allah. Whoever does that will be losers. So here you can just see Allah is telling us to not be distracted by our children and our property. But he doesn't say we can't have children, nor does he say we can't have property. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, if your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, your relatives, and the money that you've gained, the commerce in which you fear a decline, and the homes in which you delight are dearer to you than Allah and his messenger, are dearer to you than striving hard and fighting in the way of Allah, then wait until Allah brings about his punishment. So here you can see, Allah is telling us it's okay to have a nice home, to have good families and all of that. Just don't allow these things to stand between you and Allah. Don't allow your love for these things to divert you away from your remembrance of Allah. That's all he's saying. He's not saying we can't have these things. Also, Allah says, money and children are the adornment of the life of this world, but the good righteous deeds that last are better with your Lord for reward and better in respect of hope. Again, the money we have, the children we have, they're the things that we love the most in this world. But it's our deeds. We should not allow these things to overshadow our good deeds, because the good deeds are what we carry with us through the graveyard, guys. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, woe to every backbiter, every slanderer, and those who store up money. Again, you don't want to be selfish with your wealth. I tell you all the time, having money is a trust between you and Allah. Okay, you want to fulfill that trust by helping others who are in need. And it's not your money or how rich you are that determines your relationship with Allah. Listen to what Allah says. It is not your money or your children that will bring you close to us. Instead, it is your belief and your good deeds. Because of your belief and your good deeds, there will be double the reward for what you've done. And you will be in the upper houses of paradise, safe and secure. So Allah doesn't care about how much money we have or how many children we have. It's about what deeds we've done. You know, what are the good deeds we've done with our money, with our children and the likes. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind as Muslims. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, those who disbelieve, those who don't believe in Allah, they spend their money to keep men from the path of Allah. And so will they continue to spend it. But in the end, it will be a punishment for them. Also, Allah says, do not let your money or children impress you. Allah only intends to punish you through them in this world. Okay, so Allah tells us in the Quran, guys, that He will punish us or test us. He will test us with the things we love the most. If you're a person that loves money, Allah will test you with it to see just how much you love it. Do you love it more than Him? We all love our children. Well, Allah will test us to see if we're going to put those children, our love for our children, even over Him. Okay? So those are examples as to how Allah says there's nothing wrong with us having money and nice houses and nice things, but don't allow those things to keep us away from remembering Him. And to show how just and fair Allah is. And we hear a lot of people today try to speak about how Islam is oppressive towards women. This is not true. If you read the Quran, Allah lets it be known that women and men both are rewarded. And we're both rewarded for spending for the sake of Allah. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, O you who believe, do not let your property or your children keep you from remembering Allah. Whoever does that are losers. If your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your wives, your relatives, and the money that you have gained, the commerce that you fear decline in, and the homes in which you delight are dearer to you than Allah and His messenger and striving, then wait till Allah brings His punishment. Again, Allah is addressing women and men here. He's not just singling out men. He's telling both women and men, that we'll be rewarded for whatever we do for His sake. And He's reminding both women and men to not become remiss in that remembrance. Okay? So these verses don't just address men, but they also address women too. And not only that, listen to what Allah says. Again, it is not your money or your children that bring you close to us. Instead, it's your belief and your righteousness. So all of these verses, again, are for women and men. And we get the same reward too. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, the likeness of those who spend their money in the way of Allah is like the likeness of a grain of corn. It grows 7 ears, and each ear has 100 grains. Allah gives manifold increase to whomever He wills. Allah is all sufficient. So here you can see Allah doesn't just single out men. Both men and women who spend will get the same equal reward. Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, those men and women who give in charity and lend to Allah a beautiful loan will have it multiplied for them, and they will have an honorable reward. So here again, men and women, not just men. Allah says, whatever you spend in charity, he will pay it back to you because he is the best provider. As for the one who is charitable and mindful of Allah and who believes in the best reward, we will make things easy for them. And he will supply you with money and children and give you gardens as well as rivers and paradise. Again, Allah is an equal opportunist. Allah does not discriminate against women and men. We both are the same when it comes to spirituality. My chances of entering paradise are equal to a man's. I can get the same reward a man gets by spending in the way of Allah and being charitable. I don't get a lesser reward because I'm a female. That's not Islam. And not only does the Quran show equality between women and men financially, but it also addresses our integrity, our financial integrity, and our financial responsibilities. For example, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, give to the orphans their property and do not exchange your bad things for their good ones, and do not eat up their substance by adding to it to your substance. This is a great sin. So here Allah is addressing the financial responsibility of all Muslims to be kind to the orphans, to not take advantage of them or their money, their property. Also, Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, and give not unto the foolish your property, which Allah has made a means of support for you, but instead feed and clothe them with it and speak to them words of kindness and justice. Allah is telling us to don't be stupid. Don't be foolish with your property. You know, do you guys know how the Kafirs are? The Kafirs are ignorant. You know, Kafirs are so stupid that when they make a will, they will put in their will for a minor child to have thousands of dollars, when a minor child wouldn't know what to do with those thousands of dollars. That's how stupid some people are. Okay, we can't be foolish. You know, we have to use intelligence. Well, a Muslim, we're different. You know, if I'm going to leave my grandkids some money, you know, that's in the thousands, I'm going to say, but you can't touch it till you're 21, or you have to have someone to overlook it to make sure that you don't squander it. You know, but Kafirs don't have these type of rules and guidelines. They'll just leave a child with millions of dollars, like many of these TV stars. Look how many of these TV stars, when they were children, they had millions of dollars, and now that they're adults, they're broke. They have nothing. You don't give a child that much money. You have to put someone in care over it. Do not give unto the foolish your property that Allah has made a means of support, but instead feed them and clothe them with it and speak to them words of kindness. You don't leave an orphan child or a child hundreds of thousands of dollars. You take from what you have to give them according to what they need. Okay, so these are examples as to how the Quran addresses our financial responsibilities and Allah's wisdom. He has wisdom in everything. So the wisdom of his giving and withholding. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning. Had Allah given abundant provisions to all his servants, they would have certainly transgressed throughout the land. But he sends down whatever he wills in perfect measure. He is truly all aware. So Allah has wisdom with the giving and withholding. That's why he tells us you wouldn't leave a child thousands of dollars. You put it in an account and you be entrusted to care for it. Okay. Even Joseph, he asked the king of the land to appoint him over the storehouses of the people because he was reliable, he was capable, so that way the people's money wouldn't be abused. So Allah has wisdom and tells us to put someone in charge over the orphans and the minors' affairs. Also, Allah in the Quran warns us against being wasteful with our money. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning. O children of Adam, dress properly whenever you are at worship. And I want y'all to see, he ain't just say men. This goes for women and men. Dress properly whenever you are at worship. Eat and drink, but don't waste. Surely he does not like the wasteful. Also, Allah says, give to close relatives what their due is, as well as give to the poor and the needy traveler, and do not spend wastefully. As Muslims, we can have nice things. We're just not wasteful. I'm not going to buy something that I don't need. I'm not going to buy something that I can't afford to have. Okay. Also, Allah says, do not be tight-fisted, for you will be blameworthy, nor so open-handed, because you'll end up broke in poverty. So again, our way of life, Islam is a balance. You know, we're not going to be stingy and we're not going to be extravagant. We're going to learn to strike the balance. I'm going to live according to my financial means. I'm not going to live above my financial means, and I'm not going to live beneath my financial means. I'm going to be balanced. That's what Islam is all about, being balanced even with our financial transactions. Also, Allah says in the interpretation of meaning, do not entrust the incapable amongst your dependents with your money. Instead, feed and clothe them from it and speak to them kindly. There's that same verse. You would not leave a minor child with no thousands of dollars. Do not entrust an incapable minor with thousands of dollars. Instead, you keep the money and feed and clothe them from it. This is how we Muslims roll. Kafirs don't do that. Also, not only does the Quran teach us to not be foolish, but Islam also warns against defrauding others with our money. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, O believers, do not devour one another's money illegally, but instead trade by mutual consent. Also, he says, do not come near to the orphan's property except to improve it until he or she reaches the age of puberty. So we don't go around taking other people's money and property unjustly. And again, we know as Muslims that we try our best to stay away from interest. Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, whatever loans you give, only seeking interest at the expense of people's wealth, this will not increase with Allah. But whatever charity you give, only seeking the pleasure of Allah, it is they whose reward will be multiplied. So if you're taking interest from people, Allah is not going to increase your wealth. He'll decrease it and curse you in this life, to be honest. Remember, those who consume interest will stand before Allah on the day of judgment like a person driven to madness. Okay, so Allah is saying that people that used to do interest in this world will stand before him in a drunken state. Okay, whoever stops dealing with interest, then Allah will forgive them. But for those who continue to deal in interest, it is they who will be residents of the hellfire forever. Okay, so you don't want to be a person that's indulging in interest. And not only did Allah tell us to stay away from taking other people's property, to stay away from interest, but he told us to, he warned us against shortchanging people too. He said, woe to those who give less than what is due, by giving people less than what they paid for something. Do not defraud the people of their property, nor go about spreading corruption in the land. So as Muslims, you know, if you borrow, you're supposed to pay back what you borrowed. You don't shortchange people. Don't say, well, I'm just going to give you $10 and hey, in the name of Allah. Nuh-uh. You borrow, you pay back what whatever the amount was you borrowed. You don't sit there and shortchange. Also, Allah says, oh, you who believe, shall I guide you to a transaction that will save you from a punishment? It is to believe in Allah and his messenger and strive in the way of Allah with your money and your lives. That is the best for you if you only follow. You know, you want to support to have the masjid built. This is a good thing to do. You want to support this website. You want to pay each month to have the website expenses paid. This is a good thing to do. These are people who are striving in the way of Allah. Allah says those who recite the Quran, who establish the prayer and donate from what we have given them secretly and openly, they can hope for an exchange that will never fail. But those who don't, they can only hope for the hellfire. And Allah describes a successful person of financial capabilities. He says, by men who are not distracted from their families or from buying or selling. These are people who are not distracted from remembering Allah or from performing the prayer or from paying charity. They fear the day when their hearts and eyes will tremble before Allah. So these are all wonderful verses of the Quran of Allah addressing our way of life in regards to our financial transactions, our financial dealings. I don't want you sisters and brothers to go around thinking that because you're a Muslim, you can't have a nice life, you can't be beautiful. This is not Islam. It's the opposite. Allah wants you to enjoy the good things that he put here on earth. He wants us to be successful in this world and the hereafter. All right. So I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika.